Welcome to For Lawyers with Love. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to lawyers, by lawyers, and about lawyers. I started this channel to spotlight innovative leaders in our industry to ask them what they're doing and how they're doing it. So maybe, just maybe, we can all learn a little something from them and have some fun along the way. So today I'm here with Matt Canzer of Matt Canzer Law and Butterfly Legal. Matt was called in 2009 and has worked with the Department of Justice, a mid-sized personal injury firm, which is Pusher Mitchell, for those of you who are interested. I was. And since 2020, Matt has worked for himself as a sole practitioner through Matt Canzer Law. Okay, so we're not here to talk about traditional practice, though. This self-professed legal tech nerd has dedicated himself to the access to justice crisis now, and he's opened Butterfly Legal. So that's why we're here. Matt, what is so special about Butterfly Legal, and why is it different from a traditional law firm?
Hello, and just thanks for having me and for getting this really exciting and important conversation going. I really appreciate the opportunity. So what's Butterfly Legal and why is it different? Butterfly Legal is an online platform that makes it easy for people with common legal problems in British Columbia to access online legal advice. It is operated through my solo practice, Matt Canzer Law. And what's really different about it is that it's entirely virtual. All the consultations are online. And the services that I offer through the platform are really meant to be small and targeted to people that otherwise would not be able to access full service legal representation. It's unbundled legal services in an online format.
So can you give me an example? What types of service are you offering through the website? We'll go through the website for anyone who's interested later. But what are the areas you've identified that people are needing that targeted legal advice?
Sure. So I've got a few services that are in my initial offering. I launched a few months ago to kind of test out the market and see what services people were interested in. Small claims litigation coaching. So self-reps in small claims court who need some assistance, either considering if they have a case, drafting some pleadings, navigating the rules, preparing for trial. Those kinds of services are really what I found to be in demand.
Okay. So how I guess overall you found that to be in demand. Do you find that people are appreciating that lower, I guess, being able to target their legal issue or get some legal advice on a targeted point?
Yeah, exactly. I found that a lot of the times people who are representing themselves in court, they come and they're looking for some sort of legal assistance, and a lot of the options that are currently available for them, they kind of fall into two categories. Either it's truly self-help and it's just legal education, and there's some really good initiatives out there that help people understand their legal issues and how to navigate small claims court, but they can't get any advice. And as we know, the difference between legal information and advice is information is the wide body of stuff out there. Advice is what should I do, right?
Yeah.
It's applying strategy and kind of making some decisions that's best for them. And accessing the advice is what's really been missing. The other sort of category of support for people in small claims court has just been full service representation through a traditional law firm. And what I found is that the cost is just prohibitive for what a lot of these clients need.
Yeah, I'm in the family law world, which you're not currently offering, but that's what people say is I can afford a $10,000 retainer. So what am I supposed to do?
Exactly.
So that's true. Like having that more, okay, I won't provide everything that a $10,000 retainer would provide you, but I can give you some actual useful information that will make every step of the way much easier for you. So this is just, I want to talk a little bit about access to justice and how this type of service could affect people who seek out and use and understand legal services. Do you see when your clients come to you, or when they find you, I should say, because that's really what it is. It seems to be a revelation. At least when clients come to me, it's like, oh, I didn't know that this was an option.
Yeah.
Do you see people, I guess, changing their idea about how legal services can work, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the conversation around this type of service, there were some trickles of it in the last, let's say 6 or 7 years, as a lot of services started moving online. But after, COVID, when everyone became so much more comfortable with online communication and online collaboration, the demand for this type of service really, really skyrocketed. And when one of the things that I've heard a lot of clients say to me when they do find me is, finally, this is exactly what I was looking for. I can't take the time off work to go in and spend a few hours with a lawyer at a traditional law firm. I can't make multiple appointments. I can't wait 6 months for agreements to come through and for schedules to match up just to find out that I'm not going to be able to get any legal help. I just needed something quick. I want to talk to a lawyer for an hour, talk about my case, and just find out what's going on, what's my next steps, where should I look to make some decisions. So the response has been really positive, and I think it is opening people's eyes to a different way of accessing legal services. My hope is that by showing that this model can work and not only work for clients but be profitable for lawyers, is that more lawyers are going to start to offer these smaller scope unbundled legal services in a way that's cost effective, so that it's accessible to a lot more a larger number of clients.
I want to touch on two things that you said there. Something you identified is like you're able to get your clients in a lot faster than maybe a traditional lawyer. And a lot of lawyers now are doing might do virtual appointments, but it's still difficult and hard to get in, right? So they'll call around, and minimum wait time is going to be at least 3 weeks before they have a first appointment to even see, a get to know you appointment. Are you able to get your clients in a lot faster than would say 3 weeks?
Absolutely, and that's been one of the features that I've heard really good feedback about from my clients. The space that we're talking about is from awareness, when a client kind of realizes that they need some legal help, until that first appointment when they're actually talking to a lawyer. And in the traditional model of legal service delivery, we have just scratching the surface. Who are the parties so we can do a conflict check? What's this about so we can make sure it's in our scope of practice? Offering an early estimate of perhaps what the services are going to cost so the client can decide whether to proceed. Then we collect ID for client identification, and we have the retainer agreement signed, and we collect some initial documents that the client wants us to review. Only then are we ready to go and meet with our client. What I've tried to do is build a streamlined platform so that almost all of that happens in an automated way. And it's really only limited to how fast the client can put in the information. If they're diligent, I could probably see them within 48 hours of that first clicking.
Which is remarkable, because that other stuff was just so exhausting to listen to.
Yeah.
True. That's exactly what it is. But I'm like, I don't even want to hear it.
Yeah. I have sort of a 2-stage screening, and that first stage is really the conflict check, vaulting a credit card just to get the administration up and going. And then that second stage is a wider intake where I collect, after retainer is signed, where I collect the relevant documents information that I'll need to be able to provide the service.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've lost. There was something else you had mentioned in that first bit, but I forget now. But so let's continue on. How long have you been offering services now through Butterfly Legal?
Yeah, so Butterfly Legal is actually a relatively recent rebranding. I as you noted at the beginning, a few months into the COVID-19 pandemic, when we all kind of started working from home, that's when I decided to open up my own practice as Matt Canzer Law. And I had a feeling at the time that there was some sort of work to do in this area, and a pretty huge market opportunity, but I wasn't quite sure what the service was and what clients would need. So I started offering these services of, unbundled virtual practice, legal coaching for self reps, sort of a constellation of services since 2020. So it's been about 3 years. As I learned, how clients wanted to interact with me and what they needed to be prepared for the appointment, I started single-handedly sort of bootstrapping, and I built up my platform. And that platform was finally able to launch just this past June, in June 2023. So I've been offering these services since 2020, but under the banner of Butterfly and with those automated processes just in the last couple months.
Okay. Do you think you're going to ditch the Matt Canzer Law then and just do Butterfly Legal, or will you kind of have both?
That's the plan. I do maintain a full service practice through Matt Canzer Law, and I also have a mental health law practice. I do a lot of representation before the Mental Health Review Board. I have some other initiatives. But as Butterfly ramps up, and the hope is that the volume will be, it'll keep me busy enough that I'll be able to ramp down Matt Canzer Law and some of my other work initiatives.
I think that you will be able to. I'm quite confident.
Thank you.
It will take some time. So I'm going to share your
Sure.
website here, but I just have to get it a bit queued up. I thought I had it queued up, and now it looks like it's kind of disappeared. Just one moment. I have to. There we go. Here, share screen. Here we are. So this is the Butterfly Legal. Can everyone see that? There's no one else here, but
I can see it.
you can see it. Okay. So this is what you're greeted with when you first come. And we'll get you, Matt, to kind of walk us through. I've had a chance to go through this all, and I was enjoying it. There's lots of so I've been offering, as people may know, legal services, legal coaching, and unbundled services through Alinea Legal Coaching for about 7 years now, and I am very fascinated with how law firms are setting themselves up, and especially where they're finding efficiencies. And I was very interested to see what Matt had set up here. So we have the intro with a. She doesn't really talk though. We don't hear any volume from her, but there are other videos on here. So there's a nice step-by-step explanation for the client, and something I really advocate for is the pricing on the website. I think that takes a lot of fear out of a potential consumer. They know.
Yeah, I've heard that consistently.
Yeah.
Clients are happy to know what the price is going to be before they reach out. It's one of the things I found that there's a lot of fear is, how much is this going to cost me? So part of what I try to do with the flat fee pricing is to just break it down and say, some services, small claims, if we're doing the whole trial, you might end up booking 5 or 6 appointments to get us through that. Other services, I've had, for example, criminal defense consultations. All that's happened is the police have contacted someone and asked them to make a statement. They might be a suspect in an investigation or a witness to an offense, and they just need an hour to talk with someone with legal training to go through their options and help them understand the legal landscape. So just by putting that flat fee pricing on this, I find it's taking a lot of the fear out of clients of working with a lawyer.
And that's their number one burning question, right? How much is this? How much is this? And I do like criminal defense is an interesting area to offer consultations. And I always thought it was possible, but I think there's a real resistance in the legal community to offer unbundled or legal coaching services through criminal defense, because there is a benefit, right? That you have a right to remain silent. Well, someone's got to speak for you somehow. Right. But I do think that's great. So which of these services should we walk through? Do you get the most kind of interest in right now?
Well, by far the most interest has been the small claims litigation coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I think that's probably the area after family law that is in the most demand. Okay, so we are greeted by this video. I'm not going to press play, but actually I will for just a minute.
Many people go to small claims court without a lawyer, but representing yourself can be confusing and stressful.
Okay.
It's not me.
That's not you. Is that a paid actor or is that AI?
That's AI. I tried to record my own videos a few times, and what I learned is I'm very comfortable standing up in court making arguments. I'm very uncomfortable in front of a camera, and it shows. So in these early stages, while I'm trying to be cost efficient, and is this a perfect video? It's not. It's quite clearly AI generated. But I found a tool called Synthesia, which is subscription based. It's relatively low cost, and it lets you generate a lot of video in a short amount of time. So that's what I've used for these intro videos.
Do you just I'm curious about the audio. Do you upload a script or do you record a script? Or,
you type in a script.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. So this is like, okay, this gives you a bit of information, right? And then what I think is kind of this I loved, I have to say, going through is right here is where you start kind of your preparation checklist. It's right there on the website. It kind of explains to you what you offer for this type of coaching.
Yeah.
And then you go down here for a little checklist. And I suppose you're going to be seeking all this stuff in advance from the clients. And so they can go through on their own and get everything ready and queued up for you. Right?
Exactly. And my plan going forward is to expand these checklists. You know, how many checklists are online trying to help self-represented litigants? And I find that those checklists are often written, they're directed towards lawyers. They're not directed at people who don't have legal training. So this is sort of, you know, the basic level of what I'm hoping they're going to start collecting. In the future, these resources are going to dive a little bit deeper and help people, for example, you know, do the initial research that they have to do to find the defendant's, you know, corporate name, to find people's address for service, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think so. This is like you already ask in advance this list of specific questions you'd like to discuss.
Yeah.
So that I guess you would be asking for all this information before you meet with them the first time. Is that right? Sorry,
That's correct. Yeah.
you, but but then that gives you the chance to kind of be ready to go with giving helpful information in that first meeting.
Exactly.
And the other really great thing that you offer right on your website is here are the free resources that are reliable that you can start gathering information. So, I mean, there aren't many websites, I think, not even my website. I offer all this information, but generally it requires a phone call or a meeting with me, and I provide it all to clients. No problem. But it, for whatever reason, never occurred to me to just like, why don't I just stick it on the website? That's brilliant.
Yeah, I try to provide those resources in a few different places. The website's one of them. It's also in some of my canned emails. And the reason behind that is I find the more prepared a client can be before they come to our first meeting, the more value they're going to get out of that meeting. And the more value they get out of that meeting, the more likely they are to either recommend me to someone else or to come back for future needs and future appointments. So, you know, I want my clients to be empowered with the information that's out there.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. I think I've also found you can put stuff, you can lead a horse to water, but sometimes it's very difficult to make him drink. So you have to like, people keep asking you questions. And you say, you know what, maybe before you pay me, you should just have a look at this website, which, you know, is sort of like, this is my thought as being a lawyer. I don't actually want to answer all the boring questions.
Right.
If it's available online, go look at it.
Right.
I don't want to, I want the juicy stuff. I want the interesting analytical. I want to problem solve. I don't want to just be, you know, just sort of like an encyclopedia where you can look you know, something that's very straightforward, doesn't require skill, you know?
But I will say that, you know, what's straightforward to us is intimidating to a lot of people who, you know, they look at something that says rules of court and and then you look at the format of how a lot of our laws and rules are kind of, you know, really long and run on sentences. They're not written, you know, for public consumption. They're written for technical use. And I find that, you know, even if all someone does is click on it, they have a scan through, even that is going to help them target their question. So they could say, all right, look, I took a look at the section that said serving, but like corporate registry, and like, I don't even know how to do a search. What are my responsibilities? Am I going to have to physically go to them and say, you've been served? Just even introducing the resource, even if they don't find the answer themselves, I find is a way to really reduce that anxiety on the client's part.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, some of the, I agree. A lot of, I think actually probably in small claim stuff, there is a lot of content out there in family law that's directed to a self-represented litigant, because I think I saw a recent statistic that 58% of all provincial court applicants in family law are self-represented now.
I believe it.
It's a huge percentage. And so there is a lot of material out there for them. And so sort of things like, how do I figure out how to pay child support? It's like, well, I've made a million videos on it. There's a million websites. There's, you know, like, it's actually very straightforward. There's a website, you know, the government has websites. And so that it's really those kind of very basic questions, but you're right. Like, referring someone to the rules of court is sometimes that's very stressful for the client. Okay. But moving on with your website. So here
Sure.
you have, okay, you're ready to book your appointment. You've gathered your material and you've got your calendar right on your website, which I've even verified with my assistant. She was quite intrigued by being it. She's like, I like that you can book right on the website. I think that's nice. That's a really a huge.
Yeah. The idea is that we want to make the distance from, interest in education to an action to actually booking with me as short as possible. So I purposely haven't offered those 15-minute free consults that a lot of lawyers choose to offer. I haven't put a phone number that I want them to call. I want that distance to be short. I want someone to be sitting down on a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock with their cup of coffee and saying, I really meant to take care of this. Let me just do it. Let me book the appointment, and then it's there.
I think that's really smart. And I think some people watching this might be like shaking in their boots right now, thinking I have to give up control of my calendar.
Oh, this is Acuity. This is it's Squarespace scheduling, which bought Acuity. You control your calendar. It's plugged into the calendar. You set your availability. You set how many appointments a day. You set how many of each type a day. So, for example, I offer consulting services and summary advice for survivors of crime. There are some months that I can't do more than one or two of those a week without it impacting my own mental health. You can set your calendar so that it only allows one or two of those appointments a week. You could set your away time. You could set, obviously how much time in between appointments. So I felt that too, to be quite honest. It took me longer than it should have to just switch over and just let people start booking. But man, has it improved efficiency.
So I agree. And my little shameful secret is, so you've put it on the website for clients to book directly, kind of like that, which I don't have too much different. But for me, even just releasing control of my calendar to my assistant,
Sure.
took years, years. So if we click on that, then we're taken to a this is getting more interesting here. So I'm a new person. I've clicked on an appointment. That works for me. I'm going to enter my first and last name, my phone number, my email, and then you give them the option of meeting by video or by phone. So I think I think that's interesting. Mostly because I always insist the first meeting by video because I want to see their face. Do you ever at any point require a video meeting?
It hasn't come up that's been needed. Everyone's requested video. I leave phone up there because I'm conscious that some people aren't comfortable with Zoom, or they might be taking the appointment on their lunch break, and they're just not in a position where they can use video. And I've had some clients that are less comfortable with smartphones, but they can definitely have someone help them pick up the phone and make a phone call. That's why I offer it, but honestly till now it's always been video.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think people also want to see you, right? They want to get a measure of who you are and
Sure.
just verify you're a real person. Okay, and then we have, you ask for a bit of information, but then you do your client ID stuff right there on the website, which again is like very efficient. They don't have to call you, don't have to talk to you, don't have to do an intake form. Well, this is the intake form, right? And so they provide it right away. And then also your conflict check. So there's no first a call and then a separate step later. Okay, conflict check is clear. So what happens when you fill this out? I'm not gonna reserve without paying. I don't want to mess with your calendar. But what happens on your end when people fill this out? What do you get?
Sure. Yeah, I get an email with this information, and I've heard some people ask whether this is too much to ask for someone to do before they've even booked in with me, and it's purposely, I've included this much for a couple of reasons. Partly to screen out people that aren't really interested in following through with the appointment. Like, it's fine if people just want to chat with us. There's a little chat button at the bottom. If you're not ready to make an appointment, I do offer an email for people that just need support. But if someone actually wants to book an appointment, I'm not able to offer free consults, and I don't offer free consults. So I want to make sure that they know we're engaging, we're taking the first steps at creating a solicitor-client relationship. And here are some of the initial steps that we have to do. I get an email that has all of this information already included. I put that on the back end into my system. I do my conflict check, and then I respond to them with one of two emails. Either a template email that says, I'm sorry, I have a conflict of interest. I can't help you, but here's some other options that might be helpful for you. I give them referrals right away. Or they get an email that says, there's no conflicts. We'd be pleased to work with you. Here's the next step. And the next step is a link to a digital retainer agreement for them to sign.
Okay, that's really fascinating, actually. That's I can't say enough about how I really like how you've thought through that and organized it so that you have that initial information. And so once they sign the service agreement, then they get to go ahead with their appointment. And that brings me to the next question: is money. How do you get paid? Do you take money into trust?
No, that was the very first decision I made in building Butterfly. Was we are not using a trust account for for the reasons that all the lawyers watching this are going to be well familiar with. What I've done instead is at the initial booking stage, I vault the credit card using Stripe. So I never actually have the credit card number, which, for security and privacy purposes is a good thing. But I do have a service that's validating the credit card to make sure it's not a bunch of random numbers.
What's
I
that
don't
service?
Stripe.
Oh, that is the service. So through Stripe, they do that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So through Stripe, they validate the credit card. What that does is it allows me to know that if they don't pay their bill, I can just charge their credit card. It's part of my retainer agreement that if the bill isn't paid in a certain amount of time, you authorize me to just charge the credit card that you used when booking. But I don't actually take a deposit, and I don't take any money until after the service is done. I've issued the bill, and a certain amount of time has gone by in which they do have the option of paying themselves. Some people, they might choose to use a different credit card or to pay by Interac, and that is an option. Cash is obviously not an option, and checks are not an option. It's credit card or Interac, and if they don't pay, then I run their credit card.
Okay, interesting. Okay, that's really I've had a lot of lawyers who've come to me and that said, like, do you still have a trust account? Do you do this? So I've done it the other way, just to give people a little window into like what it could look like. Which I do the same as you. I bill after every little appointment, so I'm writing like each month probably, I don't know, minimum 20 checks, probably more, for tiny little amounts.
Yeah.
And that's a huge cost as far as like just the checks, right? And then a huge cost as far as the admin and all the trust accounting and the bookkeeping and the going to, dealing with the bank deposits and all that stuff. So the way you've handled it is very, I think, brave, because some lawyers out there will have been burned just as I have, with people jumping out. But that was more in my full representation days, right? When
Exactly.
you had to get stuff done, and like the bills were much larger, and they weren't these tiny little things that people are.
Well, that's it.
An issue with paying.
Yeah, that's it. I'm trying to. I consider it balancing risk, right? And on one hand, there's a risk that because I'm not putting a hold on someone's credit card, which I think might count as trust property. So I'm not putting a hold on anyone's card.
Mm-hmm.
And the risk is that they're going to, I don't know, change their credit cards and not pay the bill. The risk to me is under $1,000. All my bills are under $1,000 because I'm issuing them so quickly and so, frequently. And it's no big deal for me to issue those bills quickly and frequently because I do it through my, through Clio, through my practice management platform. They can then click a button and pay me, and, all of that flows through.
Yeah.
That's the risk to me. On their side, they're not taking the risk of giving me money before they have the service. I think that's a consumer psychology trick that we don't think of as lawyers. In what other industry and what other services do we insist on getting paid before you actually get the service? When we're talking about professional services, it's not often.
No, it's
so
true.
I try to meet the clients where they are and meet their expectations where they are.
Yeah, and if you're providing the valuable good service, then they're not going to be upset, they're going to pay for their service, I'd
Yeah.
say, right? Like, I think we all have that experience where people are, oh, it wasn't worth it, blah, 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 because they were unhappy with the advice they received. But the reality is, I think, especially with legal coaching and unbundled people, is you're satisfying a need that they have, you're fixing a pain point that they've had, right? So whatever the information is, whatever the advice is, they typically are very, whether it's good information, beneficial for them, or looks like it's gonna be disadvantageous for them to move forward. Like they're happy with the information, or advice, I should say. It's not just information.
Absolutely.
So, Matt, I think we are coming to the end of our time, because I know you need to get to a next appointment. And what I think we should do is this is our part 1, and we can finish off maybe another time, do a part 2, because there's a lot more questions I'd like to ask and share with people about kind of how you set up your practice, how you manage your clients, what that looks like, even just screening out clients. And then what the other questions and things I'd like to ask is generally how this kind of practice has benefited you.
Oh, sure.
What have you gotten out of this, practicing in this way? I have a lot of thoughts and theories about how legal coaching and unbundling would actually be beneficial for most lawyers.
Absolutely, yeah.
As well as clients.
It's a great question and great topic, and yeah, happy to chat about it in part 2, or preview it now, whatever you think is best. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it in part 2. I think let's leave people wanting more. So if you are enjoying this chat I'm having with Matt, we're going to do a part 2. So you have to stay tuned and come back later for that. So in order to do that, if you could hit subscribe, if you could comment on our video, that would be really helpful, because then we could get the word out about this. So the idea is to share ideas, build community, and hopefully make some change.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much, Matt.
Okay. Thank you.